Welcome to another Wingfoil Experience podcast, and today it's my pleasure to have Annabel van Westerop here in the show. She's not only a North team rider, but also a North executive, so she is part-time executive and part-time team rider, which I think is pretty interesting. She shared her first-hand experiences with the new North Wingfoil gear, and obviously also could explain why Duotone and North split up back in the day. It's not that far ago, actually. And really enjoyed talking to this water woman. Enjoy this episode and welcome Annabel van Westerop. Welcome everybody to another Wingfoil Experience podcast, and I'm super happy to have the chance and opportunity to pronounce another Dutch name, and it's today my pleasure to introduce to you Annabel van Westerop.
That's correct.
Hi, was it close enough?
That sounds pretty good. Absolutely. Thank you.
I just said to Annabel beforehand that I have kind of a history in the podcast of mispronouncing Dutch names. So I'm striving for the best. So.
Well, good thing we had a little practice run before we started. So now we are trained and ready to go.
Don't tell them my secrets.
Nah, too late for that
one. So welcome to the show. And first question I always like to ask is, when have you been on the water the last time?
Yesterday. I'm currently in Aruba for a little wing training trip. And I'm on the water every single day, although now the wind is a little bit dropping. So like while I'm talking to you, I'll be looking outside the window sometimes to see if the palm trees are moving enough so that I can see if it's windy enough to get out there again.
Nice. And that normally makes up for the question, like, how are you? Because if we surfers are on the water lately, at least we probably feel good. But maybe, how do you feel today?
No, that's very true. I always feel good when I've had some good sessions, and now being in Aruba, I've been able to go out every single day. So honestly, I can't complain. This morning I've been working, so it's an okay combination.
Nice. How is the surf conditions or the wingfoil conditions? How are the wingfoil conditions on Aruba, like generally?
They're
good.
I
have no clue.
It's pretty flat, so for waves you wouldn't want to come to Aruba, but it is incredibly consistent windy-wise. So all of last week I was on my 3.5 meter Nova and just exactly the same every single day. It is dead flat where I'm going most of the time. So it's very nice to try some freestyle and to, just cruise very long end distances. So it's very good, to be honest. It's very much recommended.
Nice. So if we are allowed to fly again, probably a lot of people are coming there for training, because it sounds pretty cool to train tags and jibes if you have a flat water surface and a steady wind.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really nice to train, like your turns and start to do some jumps and really just use the wing and your power and your control to get up, and not like a kick or a wave. So you're really dependent on your own technique in that sense, which makes it really nice. It is a little bit gusty though, because it is offshore. So you'll be needing to stay upwind, which is pretty important, of course. And it becomes a little bit gusty, but I feel like with the wing, that doesn't bother me as much as with a kite. So that has been pretty nice to learn that, somehow you have more flexibility of just using your arms instead of, the lines you're connected to and the power lines. So the gusts don't matter that much.
That's a finding that a lot of people have, I guess, when they get started with wingfoiling, that you are not so picky anymore, probably, with conditions. Yeah, you can tolerate more gusts and maybe also like wind picking up again and having a little lull here and there.
I mean, at first, when I just started, I thought it would be the opposite, because, you only have your arms, which are not very long compared to, 22 meter lines. So I really thought that it would be kind of tricky, which size are you going to take, and are you going to be overpowered too fast? But, and you actually find that you can move the wing around so much, and by using your arms, that you have a lot of movement you can use to, adapt to the wind and the situation.
So basically, we already dived deep into the wingfoiling talk, which is cool because
I can't help it.
But if someone is not maybe not aware of you and your name and what you're doing, maybe can you give them some pointers, like what's behind the, let's say, Instagram brand Annabel van Westerop, which is pretty impressive, but what's behind that Instagram pictures and videos? What do you do?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So I was 11. Let's go. Quick story, but like what I've kind of been up to in my life.
No worries. We have time. We're on a podcast.
That's true. That is true. So when I was 11 years old, I grew up in the Netherlands, and my family and I moved to Aruba, which is, of course, a beautiful island. I was into horses, not into water sports. So I was very upset at first. But of course, living on an island and growing up here, of course, I got in touch with water sports. There's no other way. So I started kite surfing when I was 14 years old, got hooked, had the competitive spirit that has been inside me forever. So when I was 18 years old, I went pro. And I got a really beautiful opportunity with an international brand to go professional. And basically, I did my last exam. I heard that I graduated high school and I was gone. Started traveling the world, started competing on the world tour of freestyle kiteboarding, which I did full-time for 6 years. And my best achievement there was becoming vice world champion. So that was a really beautiful achievement, of course, within kiteboarding. And halfway through there, so while I was still competing, I picked up university. So after basically going full-time kiting for 4 years, that's when I decided, okay, I'm ready to, combine it with something. I knew I always had that drive within to learn more and, think about my future as well. So I studied at the University of Aruba because this was basically where I was still based, and it was the perfect training ground, so I could combine it with studying, training, and then traveling whenever that was needed for events. So I studied for 3 years, got a bachelor's degree in tourism management and international business. And in the meantime, I decided to stop competing, to focus on my last year of studies to really see, what would be the next step. Because I really enjoyed competing, but I also slowly started to notice that I was losing a little bit the passion of the sport. I was training. My life was just training and school, and this training, the same tricks over and over and over again. For so many years, I kind of started to lose the passion for it, and I noticed that I was missing out on other things, like on waves and other disciplines that I might like. So stopped competing. Finished my studies, was just kind of waiting for what would happen next. And then I saw a message on Facebook saying that North Kiteboarding was starting back up. So when I saw this and I saw the team the management team that was going to bring the brand back to life again, and I knew a few of those faces, I had worked with them or wanted to work with them in the past, I just knew I had to be a part of it. So I contacted them and I said, what's going on? Tell me, and how can I get involved? So I got an amazing opportunity to combine, I did my studies at that point. So I felt like I wanted to do more for the brand than just be an athlete. So I got a really amazing opportunity to work for them part-time and be a team rider part-time. So at this point, I said, okay, well, I still have to finish my internship for university, and I got a really great opportunity. I had it all lined up. I was going to go to Hawaii and work in a hotel there and, do that whole thing because I was studying tourism. But I was thinking, I can't go to Hawaii now. I've got this opportunity waiting and I need to be there now. So I said, why can't I do my internship with you? Because at this point, we were not live with any products. It was still early stage. The development of the brand was happening at this point. And they said, you know what? Sure, why not? Come to New Zealand. So I hopped on a plane and went to our brand and design center in New Zealand and worked there for 3 months, finished my thesis there as well to finish my university. I had an incredible experience, living there and working there and getting, an insight into the industry. And after that, graduated, moved to Holland, packed all my bags, so moved back to Holland after, having lived on Aruba for 15 years. And I started working in our headquarters, which are in the Netherlands. So this is basically our headquarters of operations and marketing and all of that as well. So yeah, I've been working there now for 2 years, kind of flowing between functions. But now, after 2 years, I have a set function where I am customer service coordinator for North Kiteboarding and Mystic, and still part-time pro rider, of course, because I cannot let that go yet. I want to continue traveling. I'm nowhere near done. And basically, it's the most amazing combination. I get to travel and work remotely, make my own hours, so that I can really combine the two. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds like a sweet spot that probably a lot of young guns would like to have.
It's a nice step, like making a career out of your passion, the industry that you're really passionate about, and then slowly making that step, but not going for full-time job yet, because I'm not ready to sit in an office 40 hours a week. So yeah, it's quite a nice step.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. I would like to wind back a little bit, because I already know your name on the charts, of competitions and stuff like that for quite some time. And it's always a little bit delicate to talk about age, but you are still pretty young, and then you have this long competition history, right? So, and you also mentioned that you are pretty competitive. When you had the Vice World Championship, was that for you something you would really celebrate, or was it more like, I wanted to be world champion?
I mean, no one starts competing without wanting to win. Like that is what you're there for. That is what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
So of course I wanted to be world champion, definitely. I had some really fierce competition in the past years. The female level of freestyle kiteboarding has just been growing and growing, and I was growing with it. And I was incredibly close, in the competition always. It wasn't like, someone winning by a mile. No, it was always a real fight. Mostly, of course, with my lovely current teammate, Bruna, which I always really enjoyed competing with. And now, years later, to be like teammates is pretty awesome. But I noticed that freestyle kiteboarding is of course, like it's risky for your body, for everything. It's pretty next level what you're doing out there. And there became a moment where I was thinking, if I needed to go to the next step in my tricks. So you can only, go to the next step. I needed to go higher and do 180 rotations more or even more. And there comes a moment where you say, okay, I need to be 100% in it to be able to go to this next level. If you're not there 100% with your mind, there's no use in trying, because it's not going to work. And I just noticed that slowly, I was finding my passions elsewhere, with also, my desires with studying and to kind of move into a next phase. I'm always kind of jumping from things. I'm never in one thing for too long. And I just noticed my full passion was slowly gone. Also, this was the years that the tour was not running very strong. There were very few events. It was a very kind of a political mess for a bit. And it was very hard to stay motivated. So at some point, I kind of lost a little bit that motivation. And I thought, okay, either I go for it 100%, or, I am happy with what I achieved and take a break. And if I want to come back, I come back. If I don't, then I don't. And, it really took me a year to kind of look around and say, okay, if I could still jump in and still be top 3. Maybe even 2 years. After 2 years, I noticed the same. Like the level didn't even go up that much in a short time. But I was kind of happy the way I was, because I moved to the Netherlands, and there in Aruba, conditions are always the same. So, I would go for freestyle sessions and knew what to expect. In Holland, it's dependent on nature. And, I really had to learn that people drop their life when it's windy. okay,
Sure.
Drop my life. But then one day, I come to the beach and there's huge waves. And I'm like, well, I can't do freestyle now. Or then another day it's really light, so it's good for foiling, but not for freestyling. And there was always this, so I learned to adapt and do different things. And I'm such a focused person. If I'm competing, that's the only thing I can think about. So all of a sudden I had this freedom in my mind that I just arrived to the beach and said, what do I feel like today? And I just completely found my passion for the sport again and did all the kind of things I could think of. I was always on the water with people, which was something I was missing when I was training for competitions. I was kind of on Aruba, always on the water by myself training. And my parents were very, very supportive. But it's so much more fun if you're underwater with just friends and laughing and joking and not taking it so serious every single time. So I stayed like this, and I'm still loving it. And now discovered winging and, doing everything.
Yeah. And maybe winging, I don't know if you're planning on taking any competitions on in winging, but there's also probably a lot of opportunity to get competitive again.
There is absolutely, of course. I've noticed that as well. It's such a young sport. This is the first year that, it's going to be an official championship. So I think that's pretty special, to be so much in the beginning of a new sport and grow with it. I don't know yet if I'll be competing. It's kind of that same, the thought is there. And if my level reaches it, maybe I'll do it for fun. But I'm also it's not my life anymore to just do that, and I want to find a nice balance where I kind of enjoy all sides of it. So I don't know yet. I'm going to keep that open as an idea.
I attended a wingfoil contest last year, which was called King of the Wing in Germany. And I guess it was the only official, it was not even official. It was just like a local surf school on the lake organizing it, but pretty cool. And I just went there and I just started winging. So I went there with basically, to be quite honest, I think I had 3 sessions in advance under my belt. That was it. But I just thought, I just thought,
Nice.
So the price for the competition, the entry fee was the same as the fee to stay there one night with your camper. And for the competition fee, you could stay 2 nights with the camper. So I thought, it's a zero-sum game, right? I even save some money if I compete, and if I'm out the first round, like I've just been a part of it, and I thought it's also funny to be part of the very first wingfoil competition in Germany, and just went. And then what I found out is, as soon as we had a race 1-on-1, as soon as the race started, I was like, I want to win this fucking thing now.
So you have it too, the competitive drive.
So obviously I had no chance, but at least I made it to the second round. So that was my
Nice.
hero moment.
Nice. Love the commitment.
Yeah, that was everything that I had, commitment. So coming back to your entering North, I was wondering, maybe you can also tell us a story, because probably the kite surfers that are listening to us, they are aware that at some point North morphed into duotone, and then North was refounded as a new brand, so to say, but it's still the same name. So what happened behind the scenes? Like, what was the story? Because everybody, from my point of view, I was like, what's happening?
It's confusing. I know. It is. It is very confusing for many people still. A lot of people that still don't know, that are not so much into the industry. So no, definitely. I skipped over it very quickly when I was telling my story, like, oh yeah, North was coming back. Of course, like this was quite a process. So in very, trying to keep it simple, Duotone, what it is now, used to be North, of course. They needed to change the license because they were basically licensing the name North Kiteboarding. So at some point they had to change it because of reasons internal, and therefore they had to change their name because they were not continuing with this license of North Kiteboarding. Of course, you probably know that North Kiteboarding is part of North Sales, North Technology Group, which is a huge corporation. So actually Duotone was licensing this name through a third party. So they were not directly connected to this huge corporation, North Technology Group, but they were just licensing the name. So they changed their name, which meant that the name North Kiteboarding was open again. And North Technology Group, the head of the corporation, said, okay, we have this brand and we kind of want that name to come back. So it was important for them that North Kiteboarding would be on the market again. But this time, instead of licensing it through a third party, they wanted to have it directly under the company, to really be part of what North Technology Group stands for. So they found a team of 5 guys at the beginning who were going to manage it. One kite designer, one brand director, one sales director, kind of like this, a product development director. So they were with just 5 people, and they started building the team and start building the brand again. And this time it was really directly under North Technology Group, which is incredibly exciting because, now it's maybe not too noticeable yet, but we have, if you look at the Volvo Ocean Race and all these incredible sailing events, the technology that North Sales uses in their sales, it's unique. No one has this technology yet. And we now have a direct line. So, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with it yet, but we have an incredible amount of knowledge and experience within the sailing brand that, we can also use within kiteboarding, windsurfing, winging, and everything that's part of it. So that's kind of the situation now. And then, of course, at some point, North Technology Group also acquired Mystic, which is now our accessories brand, because of course no large kiting brand is complete without its accessories. So North Kiteboarding and Mystic have partnered together. They have become North Action Sports Group, and as a group, we then fall under North Technology and all of that. So that's kind of the tree, how it kind of trickles down. I know it's a little bit a lot and confusing, but in that sense, it kind of makes sense why we've come back and why it's completely new, but under the same name that everyone knows and trusts.
Yeah. I have to say, I was always on North kites since I started kiting. And then when Duotone and North went separate ways, I didn't replace my kites. So I have still some old North Neo kites that I sometimes use to go wave kiting. And now I only got wingfoil gear. So
yeah, that's a good combination. If it works, it works,
Yeah. But I was always like, I don't know, man. What should I do? Should I buy Duotone now? But I don't know. Or should I buy North? And then I think it was for a lot of customers, it was kind of confusing. But probably now we figured it all out.
It was confusing. Yeah, except you. No, it is a bit confusing, and it makes sense as well. And I mean, there's no bad brands anymore out there. Every brand is amazingly strong and has, their unique features. So yeah, you just got to try out and see what feels right for you.
Yeah, I will. But right now I'm so stoked about wingfoiling that I'm not considering buying kites,
Fair enough. So finally, we are on the market with our wings as well. So
yes,
that's good.
So that would be the bridge, actually. That I think it was. When did you officially release the wing equipment? It was not so far ago, right?
March, end of March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what does North currently have, like, for wing foilers?
Well, it's pretty amazing. We launched basically everything you might want or need or desire as a winger. So I kind of just, in Dutch we say I fell with my nose in the butter. I have this, we really have a complete range, which is really epic. We have the Nova wing, which comes in 5 sizes, if I'm not mistaken. And I really like the wing. I've tried a lot of wings on the market just before ours launched, because I was learning already, borrowing some gear from people, seeing, what I liked. And I feel it's a very stable wing. You just know what to expect. It's not too heavy. It's also not too light. So you feel like it's durable. And I really like the performance of it. It feels very safe in the air. And I really feel very controllable, not too, wild or anything. It's just nice and stable. And then we have, a whole lineup of boards. Behind me, I have the Swell, which I'm currently using. We have the Seek board, which is the wider board, which is, the actual wing board for learning. We have the bigger sizes. And then for, once you improve, we have the smaller sizes. Of course, I'm a tiny person. I'm not very heavy. So I have kind of found my way with this Swell board, which is more for prone surfing, prone foiling, and also for winging, but it's a lot smaller. So right now I have a 41 liter board, which I think fits me really well, because I just about sink, but not too much. So that's been working really well for me. And then we have the whole Sonar foil edition foil gear, which has the masts in different sizes. We have 3 types of front wings in a lot of different sizes. So yeah, But all I would have to say, like all the North foiling gear is very, how do you say, like good for anyone. It's very strong. Also the foil stuff, it's not, it's not full carbon. So maybe it's not the quickest or the highest performance, but it does it all and it doesn't break when you look at it. So I think that's a pretty good fact for, such an all-around brand that we are.
Yeah. And where do the foils come from? Are the foils adapted from SUP foiling or from windsurf foiling, or like what's the roots of the whole foil range?
Well, the foil range, of course, started for kite foiling, because up until this year we were a kite brand only, and now we have slowly started to shift towards prone foiling, prone surfing, winging, of course. So we've kind of extended our range, what we already offer, to make it also work for all of these other sports now. And then some of them, like especially the bigger sizes, you wouldn't use them for kiting because they would only work for, like winging and stuff. So yeah, we've kind of grown from there.
Okay, you got it. Yeah, because I was just asking because I feel like when I started kite foiling, like the kite foils, they are so tiny and small. Even if you have a compared like to wing foiling, they're still small, even if you're a big one. And for me, it felt totally different to stand on a wing foil, because you can actually, I don't know how to say it, you feel like you're surfing it. You're not feel like you're flying it through the water, because just of the sheer amount of speed that you generate through your kite. And then with kite foiling, I was always like, I don't know how to say it. It felt completely different, the experience. So so I was wondering if you could actually just scale kite foils to use them as wing foils, or if it's a completely new development.
You can, but for example, the first year we just had one type of front wing, and then the biggest size would be a 1650, which you could then use for prone surfing and for winging. And I noticed that, just because I took a larger size, it didn't really work for me, because I felt like it was too slow. So then I changed now since this year. So basically, as we launched the wing gear, they've also launched the different types of front wings. And we have this one high aspect wing, which is actually a bit too big to go kiting with, but I have the smaller size for winging at the moment. And it's absolutely perfect. And I'm starting to slowly get into, surfing as well with the foil. This is something I've not grown up with, but I'm learning. And the high aspect wing for me really seems to work, kind of does it all. And then we have another like reflexed wing. To be honest, I've not tried it yet, but I hear really good things about this one too. So we definitely have some, really foil specific wings now that have been developed with winging in mind.
And maybe because I shared an Instagram story where people could ask questions, and a question that I get a couple of times was, what would you recommend if someone wants to learn wing foiling? And first of all, this question is normally gear related, but there are a couple of follow-up questions that we maybe also can dive into. But you already mentioned that when you progress, you can downsize your board, for instance, or something like that. But what do you recommend if someone wants to get started?
To be honest, I feel it is a very smart decision to take 1 or 2 lessons. I mean, you can buy stuff and learn by yourself. That is no problem. But the thing is that once you start, you have to start on a really big board, which is basically a boat, and it makes it really easy to learn. But within 3 sessions, you don't need that big a board anymore. And then you downsize a little bit. So you go to a little bit smaller board. And then within a few sessions, you're like, okay, I can go smaller again. So I think I would recommend, to learn, to kind of know, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. I've learned it on a very big board, and then I'm going to buy myself kind of a medium board. Don't go tiny, don't go on a sinker immediately, because that's not going to make it fun for you. It's not a fun experience when you start like that. But, a board where you can sit on your knees and not sink, and start going, and then you will improve and enjoy it for a longer period of time. And then sell your stuff and go smaller again, but that might take a while, but I felt that that's always the best thing to do, of course, is to like on Aruba, for example, you just see people shifting their stuff between each other. So every time someone improves, they give their set to the next person who wants to learn, and then they learn, and then they give it to someone else who's getting into the sport. And that local market is really, like helping so that you're not stuck to this set that is actually too big for you for too long, so that you can really continue improving.
What would you consider a while? Because you said like after a while you want to maybe go to a medium-sized board, and I think that is something that a lot of people confuse, like, and they think like, yeah, after 3 hours I need a new board, like what do you think? Is it a matter of sessions or?
Yeah, it's I would say it's a matter of sessions for sure. It also really depends on the person. I when we just started receiving our gear, our wing gear didn't even launch yet. So we had a few samples that came in. So I immediately said like, "Oh, can I please have a sample to get started?" And there was not much available. We either had a really big one or a very tiny one. So I said, "Okay, let me have the tiny one and I'll figure it out." So my first session, I was basically fighting and not having a great time. But then, I kind of forced myself to just work with it because I was, I didn't have a choice. And therefore, I learned very, very quickly. But, if you want to buy your set, again, it's better to not go too small immediately because you want to improve. And, like if you spend already 10 minutes every time you fall and you need to get back onto your board, it's just a lot of time wasted. So that would really be a shame. So, like you can go to maybe 85 liter board or 75 liter board, depending on your weight, which will be either around the same weight or a little bit heavier than that you are. And that will, that means that you can really just enjoy it for a really long time. Because like I said, you don't want to struggle too much. First, go and learn all your turns, for example, make sure you can jibe and make sure you can tack from toe side, tack from heel side, like do all of these turns. And you can do that all on a bigger board because there's absolutely no need for a tiny board when you're doing all of that. Then, at some point after few months, you're ready to either maybe you like to start jumping, or maybe you like to start catching waves, or, go a little bit faster for some racing idea. That's when I would say, okay, then you kind of know where you are and go find the setup that is really going to take you to the next level.
So a question that, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Mendel Korf on Instagram basically had, and that fits quite well here, is like, do you think it's better for a kiteboarder to learn kite foiling first or to switch to a wing foil? Probably if you don't know how to foil yet.
You know what? I think you can go to wing foiling immediately. It's nice to learn kite foiling, but it's also, the kite foil is a lot quicker. Because, you can't have a wing and a front wing that is too big with kiting because you will go faster than your board. There's no way to kind of, slow yourself down, and then it's not nice because you feel like your board is just holding you back. So, with a wing, especially when you learn on the bigger board, you just sit on your knees, you stand up, and you slowly start cruising. You have the wing in your hands. You slowly start cruising, and then as soon as, you get speed, you're slowly getting up and down again, and up and down again. But because the front wing that you have on the foil is so big, the movements are slow. So it's a lot slower than kite foiling, because kite foiling can be pretty radical, to be honest. I've had a accident myself, unfortunately, which made me very thoughtful and careful in the sport, because they are sharp. But with winging, I feel somehow very safe because it all goes a little bit slower and the board doesn't fly around as much as a kite foil board would.
Yeah, and I also guess like the board itself for me works like a shield to the foil. So because it's a big board, because I have to stand on it, so I'm still on a 100 liters board. And I don't feel like I need to get a tiny one right now because I can still do everything with that board that I want to. And but it's big, so if I fall down, I might hit the rail of the board or something like that, but I won't hit the foil. But with my kite foil, the board is tiny.
Correct. So, yeah, and it's it often goes on the side or upside down, and because of this wing foil board that is so heavy, it tends to just kind of always be down and slowly drift away. When you fall. Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed that too.
Not always. Sometimes my foil wants to be belly up and destroy my wing, but that's a different story.
I think we all go through this experience with winging. It's not like a kite that's so far away, Somehow I think we have to just know that that is kind of part of the sport.
Yes. I don't know how many kites you destroyed in your career. Do you have a number? Like
Not
kites that you
very
really
many.
ripped?
Not very many. No,
It's just a
I
few,
crashed
right?
them. I crashed them a lot, but somehow I was pretty lucky. But yeah, I've broken a couple,
Yeah.
and I've been winging for 3 months, and I've broken one wing 3 times.
Yeah. So, I have the same experience. I mean, I'm far away from a pro rider, and I destroyed 0 kites. And I mean, like, how many times do you crash a kite when you're a decent kiteboarder, surfer? I mean, like, you maybe crash it a couple of times a session. That's already like probably at the higher end for most people. But with my wing, yeah, one moment where you are not aware where your foil is and your wing is going to the sailmaker.
Absolutely. Well, I do also notice that luckily you kind of learn how to fall away from the board, so you notice how to keep your wing safe and not crash on a foil, and also yourself, which is pretty important factor. But yeah, it is a little bit part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But on the other hand, it's as far as I think I had 2 wings ripped, and it was pretty low price to get them fixed up. I think one was $40 and the other one was $90 to replace it, and I was back on the water.
It's not all that bad. No, absolutely. And like the wing is quite compact, and I feel like it's very good to fix, and it wouldn't influence the performance as much. Of course, it depends how big the rip is and where it's going to be. But in general, I've had one rip in my canopy and one in the bladder, and both were actually not a big problem to fix at all.
Mm-hmm. So, very, very favorite questions of a lot of people is like, what leash setup do you have? Like wing leash and board leash.
So the wing leash, the North Nova, comes with a standard wrist leash, which is pretty elastic. So it's long enough to not be, like too tight when you're holding. Because I've had one wing that I borrowed from someone that was very tight when I was holding the back. I don't like that. I like to have, room to move around. And so yeah, it comes with a wrist leash, which I'm super content with. And then at the moment, I'm using a subfoil leash. So for my board, that's on my ankle. I think it's actually meant to be like just below the knee, but I quite like to just have it on my ankle like a surfboard and not have to worry too much about it. So I've also tried the one on the waist, but I'm not too sure yet which one I prefer. But I'm quite happy with the one on my ankle now. I'm very used to it, and it's not like on your top body, because there's already a lot going on with leashes.
And are you happy with the leash on the ankle, like in terms of when you crash, that you have enough space to your board?
Yeah, especially because it's a sub leash. It's quite long, so my board really kind of goes away and then slowly comes back. It's not very tight. So I quite like having that idea. The only thing I'm not too sure about yet is when I start going into the waves, because I feel very vulnerable having like one arm and one leg, and kind of my body is pulled out from the 2 sides, and I'm kind of afraid with the tangling. But I think that's also just learning how to handle the waves and be confident.
That's something that I learned from Willow River Tonking. He told me like, it's not a big deal, you just, when you see the wave coming, you just throw your wing up and you dive under the wave. And I was like, I'm not so sure, man. I feel already like going through a big shore break with my kite foil is pretty exciting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that very much, because I didn't grow up with waves. They are quite intimidating to me. Whenever I find myself in them, and in Holland, sometimes you have some pretty nasty shore break as well. And it doesn't even have to be big, but when I have this wing and the foil, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I actually wrote someone, I saw this video on Instagram of like someone in Hawaii that took a big dumping of a wave with his wing setup. He just kind of made a mistake and he crashed. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just wrote him a message and I said, what do you do?
Well, was it Zane Schweitzer by chance?
No, I don't think so, but
okay. Because I saw this video of him like really getting tangled and washed with his wing gear.
I didn't even see too much tangling going on. I just saw this wave, on his head with all his wing gear, and I just thought, how do you survive this? Yourself and the board. And of course, he also said if it's not too big, you can throw the wing up. And other than that, he said you just gotta ride it out. But the one thing he told me that was quite interesting was that he said he finds that the way, when the wave comes, the board tends to stay behind, like it kind of pulls to the deep end of the wave, and then the wing kind of stays high because it has the air. So they somehow, in a way, naturally kind of go away from each other, and of course you end up being in the middle. But of course every wave is going to be different, and it really depends on how you fall and where your material is going to be. But it did give me a little bit of an idea, like, okay, if I don't have to be too afraid that everything's going to be smashed into one.
Did you already figure out like that's something that I have in my mind? Like the first time I've only been on flat water because I couldn't travel since I started wingfoiling, or I didn't want to travel. I could have traveled probably, but just didn't want to do it. And so I'm not really sure, like when you go through shore break, I would probably, if I wouldn't have the wing, I would probably take my foil up. So I would probably have my board like foil up on the belly and drag it through the shore break as long as it's not waist high or something like that, the water. But then this is exactly where I don't want my foil to be, because my wing is going to be exactly in that spot. And like, do you already have a solution to that scenario, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I mainly try to keep the board on its side and have the foil pointing away, and just kind of have it under your arm, or even hold the front foot strap if you have one, or just hold the rail of the board. That way you kind of keep the board next to you with the nose into the wave. And then the foil is away from you. The wing is, of course, in your other hand. And that way you kind of just like go through the waves, go through the shore break until you're deep enough. And then as soon as you can, get onto the board and start paddling. That is key, because once you're on the board and paddling, you can almost kind of duck dive or go over the waves, and your wing is fine. It will just be behind you.
Yeah. And when you paddle, do you have the wing on your wrist still, or do you put it somewhere else?
No, I keep it on my wrist, just with that idea in mind that I don't have to start changing things once I'm out there. Maybe there's still waves breaking around me. I just want to be able to go as quickly as possible. So that's kind of been my tactic. I don't know yet if it's the best one, but I feel pretty okay at the moment doing that, and just try to get up as soon as you can.
Yeah. So that's something that I wanna try out. That Roberto Ricci told me last week, that he puts his wing for paddling, just for paddling through the shore break, he puts his wing on his ankle, so the leash of the wing, and just paddles through the shore break. And then when he's out, he figures everything out again. And
if you have a shore break and then after that, calm, I think you could definitely do that, because of course it does bother you a little bit when you're paddling, bringing your arms forward and the wing is pulling. I've also kind of, sometimes I put my my toes through the front handle of the wing, so I kind of hook my foot behind this front handle so that, it doesn't pull back as soon as it gets a gust. It's just kind of stuck to my feet in that way. Therefore, I have enough space on my arms to just, start paddling, have those free, although the leash is still on my arm, but my foot is kind of keeping the wing close, or even, hooking just bending my knee and hooking my ankle, my heel, behind the main leading edge of the wing. To kind of keep it close as well. Little things, but yeah.
I mean, this is all comes into play if you really have to paddle for your life or something like that. Like if you're seeing a big set coming in, and everybody's paddling out of the lineup, then probably who has the best technique is gonna win.
That is definitely true, and that is still something, the waves are intimidating, and you have to find your way, but the best way is to just go through it and paddle through it, try to find, when the waves are a little bit lower, because they always come in sets. You have bigger sets and then a couple smaller sets. Just, don't mind if you're just waiting there for a bit. Don't feel like, oh, everyone's going out, I need to run out now. Just look at the ocean, read it. Where are the waves coming from? Are they lower in one place? How is the shore break? And what's going to be the best way to go through it?
Yeah, that's good advice. That's very good advice. Maybe let's have a last a question by one of the listeners. It's Neil Sip, who asked, how many tries did you need for the 360 that you posted?
A couple. So actually, I started trying it a while back when I was on Aruba as well, but we didn't receive the wings yet, so I only had a 5 meter, which is huge. Like I was with this big wing trying to try a little bit. I was trying. So then now recently I came back again with Lou. I was not having much success, but at least I could nail the jump to toe side. Just the 180, and then I would fall or turn back. But that one I felt pretty confident in, so that was helping already to have that first base. And then I had my 3.5 meter, which I was very, very happy with. All of a sudden, I felt this crazy freedom. And there was also like one little technique point that immediately helped me to understand. And that was the one bit of technique I was missing. And that is, once you go for that first 180, you land 180, or already 360, of course, it's the same thing. You pull your wing back. So you almost do like a dab, which is like the thing. And then you pull your wing all the way back as far as you can. And it feels strange because you're going forward, but you're pulling the wing back. But that seems to be the trick, so that you land and then the wing wants to go around. So you kind of really drive it into the wind. And that for me was like the factor. And then to be like, the day we started trying it, I was able to land it. So that was pretty exciting.
Damn it.
Yeah.
If you wanna encourage people to try wingfoiling, you need to tell them, it took you 1 year to learn wingfoiling.
We've only had gear for like 2 months, so I wish I could say that, but but you need some commitment though. That's for sure.
Yeah, true. I mean, I also guess, like, if someone is already able to foil, the learning curve is super steep. Did you teach people that were non-foilers, maybe not even a strong wind sports background, and see them? How long does it take? Do you know anything about the learning curve for non-foilers?
Not too much, because I don't teach, and I'm not close to any schools yet that teach winging. So I haven't heard too much about it. But I have, for example, I went on the skateboard, and I was teaching a few friends who are kiters, but they've never been winging or foiling before. And we went on the skateboard in the city with the wing, and within one session, so which is like maybe half an hour or so, I was able to teach them the jibe and the tack to both sides. So that was pretty impressive to me. Like, I was just teaching my friends and like, try to do this and try to do that. And that's, of course, with a skateboard. So it's not so much about the foiling part, but just, controlling the wing, understanding how to do the turns, where the wind is coming from. They got that within half an hour. So I thought that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Do you remember what skateboards you used? Was it just regular longboards or surf skates? Or?
I started with a longboard because that's what I have at home. But you really want a cruiser, one that's any kind of skateboard, to be honest, but that's really loose on the wheels that can, make really sharp carves. Because that way, you can do the jibes and not lose too much ground, because a longboard is going to be way too slow. You're going to make the biggest circles of your life. You don't need to use that much space.
True. And it's crazy how fast people pick it up. I also teach 2 friends that even don't skateboard or never stand on a skateboard before. And they picked it. I mean, they didn't do jibes and tags, but at least they were going back and forth, and they started jibing a little bit after, also, like, as you said, half an hour, 1 hour. And I thought that is pretty impressive, because they would have probably progressed slower on a skateboard without holding a wing in their hands.
Right. Right, yeah. I feel like in general, the wing is a pretty special thing, because it looks quite large and you have to hold it and, with the wind. But even compared to kiting, like it's almost a little bit like windsurfing, but less heavy. So even compared to windsurfing, it's easier because when you hold it, two handles, you get power. When you let the back handle go, there is nothing. And it gives people a very safe idea because they can really slowly power up the wing and start, either cruising on a skateboard or slowly going on a foil board, but keeping it flat. It's not so all or nothing. And with kiting, normally you're lying in the water, so you need to kind of go all or nothing, dive down the kite to be able to at least get up and then start cruising. And that's the nice thing with this winging. You just stand from nothing, no movement. You power up the wing and you slowly start going, and therefore it's quite easy to get a little bit more confident quickly.
So as we are slowly coming to the end of the show, one thing that I was wondering is like, do you get like people comments from people like, oh, this looks kind of, I don't know, strange, and this usual wingfoil talk that we probably all get right now. I don't know if you also get it, or if people are more like, oh, she's a pro rider, so I better.
Even worse, I was one of them.
Yeah.
It's so funny with this winging. Like I think most of us have been looking at it for almost 2 years now. I think it's been around, and at first we thought, it looks funny, but it's going to get boring so fast, and it's going to just kind of be popular for 6 months and then it's going to disappear again. It's just like a hype. And it's growing and it's growing and it's growing. And of course I had my friends on the beach that in Holland that were joking at me as well, like, oh, this winging, oh, you're so lame and blah blah blah. And then slowly they're starting to try it and they're completely hooked as well, just like me. So I got the chance to start trying it a couple months ago, and there's just so much progression, and it's so free, and I feel like it's a lot more free than kiteboarding even, because it's just you and your wing, and you let it go, and you just sit on the water sometimes and look around and say, wow, look at where I am. And just every session you're making big steps again, because there's a lot to learn, and you can compare it a little bit with windsurfing or kiting, but at the same time, not at all. It's completely different. So everyone is slowly getting hooked. So even if you're still looking at it thinking, this winging doesn't look like it's that exciting, I think it's pretty exciting. And when you try it, you will think so too.
So I can totally relate to that, because I was also one of these guys, on the beach in Tarifa, looking at one friend of mine, and I was like, dude, seriously, like, you need more wind as you need for kite foiling. You at the same time, like, when you are already on your wing foil, I'm already on my wave board, with my kite, and I was like, who needs that? I was totally, and now I'm obviously hooked, but. And what I was thinking today is I had a session in my lunch break. So my lunch break was on the water, and I came back, and I'm still the only wingfoiler at my local spot, and it's mostly windsurfers. So kiting is not an option there, but there's a strong windsurfing community, and everybody is obviously like making jokes about it here and there. And I also noticed that some people are now more interested in it, because I'm already up and foiling when they're still rigging their sails and stuff like that. But I was wondering, like, what would happen, if we actually would turn it around and pretend on the beach that windsurfing is a new thing. Like this looks kind of funny, guys. Why are you putting fins under a board that could actually fly? And why do you use 5 sails if you could just buy one wing? And why do you?
Very true. It's so simple, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and you have this freedom to just basically, where there is water that is deep enough, you go wing. And, like with windsurfing and kiting, it's not the case. Like now all of a sudden there's so much more spots you can go to that normally you wouldn't be able to go to. So yeah, I agree. And all you have is this one wing in your hand that doesn't weigh anything. And just this one board that weighs a little bit more, to be honest. But, that is all. And you walk into the water and you're ready to go.
Yeah. And like to sum it up, maybe like what would your quiver look like? Like if you wouldn't be a team rider, obviously you travel probably with a lot of gear, but if you wouldn't be a team rider, you just want to go wingfoiling for fun on an island, let's say Caribbean island, and you take a normal quiver with you, what would be in there?
Well, if you have the budget for it, 2 wings would be nice. For example, a strong wind and a lighter wind wing. At the moment, I feel like having just a 3.5 and a 4.2 would be fine for me, because yesterday I was in 0 wind and I was able to leave with a 4.2. If you're a little bit larger, have a 5 meter maybe. And so that's it for the wings. And otherwise, just take 1 wing that's nice and in the middle, 4.2, for example. And then your board, and make sure that, the board is a little bit nice to travel with, because we just heard we're going to the Caribbean. So it shouldn't be like a boat. And like I said before, a board that is big enough that you can progress quickly, but challenging enough that, it keeps it exciting and you're really feeling that you're learning something new. And just one nice, steady foil underneath that you can go into the waves, you can jump with, you can cruise with, and you just feel comfortable with. That's all you need in life.
Awesome.
And a glass of rum punch or a beer after the session.
Nice. Yeah, so I started explaining my wing range, like in terms of, I have 1 wing that I use when I see windsurfers, and I have a 2nd wing that I use when I don't see windsurfers. So basically, that's it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that saves me from a lot of follow-up questions from windsurfers, because they totally get it. Like, oh, you have 1 wing for all my sails? Like, yeah.
Yeah. That's all I have.
and the greatest thing actually is like you remember these sessions where you could actually use 2 kites or 3 kites, and every kite would have been right and wrong at the same time, And so that's the sessions where I go with my 4. You probably go with your 3.5, and I'm still fine, Like, I don't feel like, oh no, I can't go up in riding, and I still also don't feel like I'm totally overpowered or something like that. It's still cool.
Yeah, that's what I meant with that. Just 1 middle wing, one that you can do it all with. And of course, we all want the luxury to have like 4 sizes with us at all times. But sometimes that also just makes the decision too complicated. If you have 1 wing, okay, let's make it work. You're probably going to have a real good time out there.
And we all know this one kite surfer or kite surfer girl that is like on the beach, like, I should take my 12, but I don't like to ride my 12. So I want to take my 10, and like, just take your 4 meter wing, just go out there, have fun.
Yeah. Start cruising, less stress.
Nice. Annabel, if someone wants to follow you, what's the best place to get more information about you, and also to see where you're heading with Norse and as a team rider?
Definitely Instagram. That is the place to be. That is also where, I read all my messages. So I'm always really happy to, answer questions, or just, have a little chat. So Instagram is Annabel VW. And like the car, but then Van Westerop. And it would be amazing to get a little bit more.
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry.
It's fine. No, but I'm excited to get into the wingfoiling community more and more. So this was my first wingfoil interview, and onwards and upwards.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this. It was really just a crazy idea to launch this podcast, and I already talked to so many cool and inspiring people. So thanks for taking the time today.
Well, you're really nice to chat with anyway. So I think you're doing an amazing job. And, people like you is who start to grow the sport even more and make it even more interesting in the media as well. So it was really nice to chat to you.
Thanks. Maybe we can do a part 2 if Norse is coming up with a new range or something like that. Like people
Anytime.
Are always very interested in the gear.
Of course.
And if you drop any, like wingfoil wave sessions on your Instagram, I would like to do follow up on that one when you are in really big waves. Maybe if you're heading into that.
Let's see if I can, scramble up some confidence and just go for it.
I won't. I promise myself I won't drop into big waves with a wingfoil gear. I don't know if I can stick to that, but
big ones I don't see myself doing yet either. But I'm really enjoying the downwingers, as we call them now. Going from one place to the next and just catching little waves along the way, and that's just been so much fun. slowly growing confidence in that. So that's good.
Nice.
We will keep in touch.
Enjoy that. Have a great day and talk to you soon.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Hope you like this episode, guys, and I hope you're gonna tune in for the next one. I'm a little bit in a hurry today because I was wingfoiling during my lunch break and I have to wrap some work-related stuff up, and I need to finish editing this episode that you can listen to it because it's gonna be released in a couple of hours. So if you like the podcast, if you like this episode, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe wherever you are. Also, please share it with some friends. I really, really appreciate every support, and I love that a lot of people are starting to DM me about the wingfoil experience, and I love that people are stoked about wingfoiling. So let's keep it up. As always, look at your forecast. If you see some wing, go wing it. Get down.